Can you give us a brief overview of your role as Chief Executive?
My role is really to execute the vision and the mission of FIP, ensure that the strategy is enabled and delivered globally. You can see it on my logo. The absolute nugget of FIP is to advance pharmacy worldwide. So we seek to do that by a variety of methods and means with many, many programs. And under our umbrella are many different types of pharmacists, pharmaceutical scientists, and pharmacy educators. So my role is very varied, very wide-ranging, and the needs of our membership are huge, as well as the wider need of the profession.
Now, could you tell us a little more about FIP? What kind of organisation is it and what does it do?
So International Pharmaceutical Federation is a non-governmental organisation, not-for-profit, set up in 1912 in the Netherlands. It seeks to advance pharmacy worldwide. We have a footprint that is global. We have 160 member organisations that represent individual members, whether they be pharmacists, pharmaceutical scientists, pharmacy educators, technicians, etc., etc. We also have in our membership allied organisations, academic institutions, and observing organisations like pharmacy regulators. Our footprint represents around 5.5 million pharmacists, pharmaceutical scientists, and pharmacy educators. But as well as that, we span the 6 regions of WHO and have regional forums that provide us with a footprint. We work together with our membership based on their needs to deliver their needs and priorities individually, member organisation by member organisation. But additionally, we have several things that we do that can benefit the entire profession inside and outside membership of FIP. So the role is very, very varied. We've been in official relations with WHO, which I can walk you through a little bit later, since 1948, and with UNESCO since 2010. So we have that role to advocate and promote pharmacy in the sphere of global health, and again, with education and science at our core.
Now I want to look at FIP from a different angle. What is the benefit to individuals of joining FIP?
Well, Christine, our background back in the day comes from being a member of UK CPA. So you and I would know the benefit of being part of a network of like individuals or people you can share knowledge or even inquire how to do things with. Expand that notion to a global network, and there's something about being able to share experiences and expertise. I joined FIP. I went to my first FIP Congress back in 1992, and I still have some of my closest friends from that time, and I've made friendships along the way that are second to none. So making friendships, but also sharing best practice, sharing what you know or what you find difficult in your practice with others, gathering expertise from them. Every single person who's part of our individual membership can avail of being part of a section that kind of describes where you work, traditionally community, hospital, industry, academia, but also areas of special interest or being part of a development group, an advisory group. We also have a hub where our development goals attract individuals who are interested in the equity programs we just spoke about, or sustainability and climate change, or academic capacity. And there's loads of routes for you to get involved in, be part of surveys, be part of data collection, take part in our insight boards, but also listening, learning, being part of our communication structure, and sharing your stresses and troubles around developing services, getting them funded, getting them recognised. This is part of the tangible benefits, and the intangible or the innate is the friendships that you make, and it's really important that we recognise that, especially in the time that we're working virtually, and especially in the time where we are global citizens. Having friends across the world really pulls you together in a new way. We've got lots of continuing education, we've got different symposia, we've got different ways to offer advice and expertise, and also programs. And we've got our International Pharmacy Journal, which is like our newsletter magazine. We've got our Pharmacy Education Journal, which is peer reviewed. And we also have webinars and workshops and seminars and abstracts and presentations and lots of things that help you along your career as well, potentially.
You have had a series of jobs in pharmaceutical organisations rather than being a frontline pharmacist. Can I ask you to reflect briefly on how your education and experiences have fitted you for these roles and what makes them professionally rewarding?
Yes, and I also just want to say that when I started after my pre-reg, my PhD, there wasn't funding at that time to undertake a PhD full time in the area that I was undertaking it. So I didn't realize it at the time, but having a portfolio of roles at that time to basically to finance me held me in such good stead so that I had an understanding of community, hospital, academia, not industry. I never worked in industry, but policy and then regional services, which is a particularly English and UK term. Having that, moving that into the Royal Pharmaceutical Society position helped me no end because you had to understand what an individual would need on the ground to be able to speak to them. And then moving from RPS into FIP, where I've got to work with organizations and individuals, I think having all of those levels of experience, and may I say some customer service training from community, even more than hospital, that's really customer facing, has held me in good stead. It's only now I look back, Christine, I think that all of those steps in my career make sense now when I am in this position. Having the ability to say, okay, there's something coming in the door, I have to manage it. I'll say yes if I can, and I'll say maybe not now, but here's when to most inquiries. That comes all the way from back at the start of my career. And having the research acumen to be able to say, let's investigate that to the nth degree and make it really robust, or let's do a piece of descriptive research which won't be super robust but will tell a story. Understanding data, I think, really has helped me. And then that whole thing about policy into practice, don't wait for it to be perfect, for it to be good. This is just, it just helps. The countries who feel they're so far behind, but also countries that are further ahead and then find themselves in these policy discussions where everything's stripped from them. The ability to go, well, I just need to make this little tweak and we can have success is so important. Yeah, it's the best job.
And finally, do you have a closing message for pharmacists, be they frontline or otherwise?
So I think that there are two or three key messages for a pharmacist. No matter where you are, we need to, without being arrogant, be fully aware of our worth and our contribution. The fact that FIP represents pharmacists no matter where they are, from the drug discovery all the way through to delivery, all the way through to the supply chain, all the way through to patient facing, all the way through to research and education, is absolutely astounding. The second thing is the career of pharmacy, with that breadth of expertise that we come to it with. Not least, you may specialize later on in your career, or even, at an early stage. You can cross sectors very easily, and this is something that many in other professions just don't have the opportunity to do. We see in healthcare, many of our other professions have to go all the way down the mountain of specialty to go across and go all the way up. We carry with us a lot of transferable skills that are highly, highly valued and valuable. And the third piece is not to wait for perfection to stand in the way of good. So where we have evidence of impact, to be confident about that. We don't need to have produced PhD theses on every single thing. We need to be able to compel policymakers to understand our intrinsic and extrinsic value to healthcare. In the words of Dr. Tedros, no health system would be able to fund pharmacy in communities if they didn't exist already. And that goes to all of the return on investment of having pharmacists wherever they are on that medicine supply chain. Education, science, practice, community, hospital, industry. Without pharmacy, we don't have healthcare. And that's the mantra I think we should all be really proud to deliver.